Have you been on the fence of if you should build a team, maybe partner with another agent or two in your office? And what would that potentially look like if you went that direction? Well, if so, then this episode is for you. Today, I sit down with Meg Shapiro out of Capitol Hill in DC, who partnered with Jeanne and Phil to create the Jeanne, Phil, and Meg group. What I found incredibly unique is their structure to the partnership, which ultimately backed into them building a team. Now, to give you some context, they went on to produce last year 82 million in sales volume. Pretty impressive. Before we get started, if you find value in content like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And as always, I'm your San Francisco referral partner, Shawn Kunkler. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Shawn. Happy to be here.
I so am looking forward to this conversation. To give listeners some context, you and your team, what was it in 2022 did $82 million in sales, which is obviously a very significant number. But more interestingly is the way your team has been structured. And I would love to unpack the nuances of that, how you all approached it, what were some of the trials and tribulations, and how you got there. But really quick, funny story. When we first met in San Diego at an event, we're sitting next to each other at a table and chatting. And I remember you saying, somebody brought up the fact that I had a podcast, and you looked at me and you're like, I thought your voice sounded familiar.
I felt so stupid because I kept sitting there going, gosh, I feel like I know you. Haven't we met before? I think you finally said, well, I have this podcast. And I was like, oh my God, I've listened to your podcast. I love it.
That is hilarious. That's the best. That was so cool. That was such a great event. And I met so many amazing agents down there, and it was super cool. And you were one of them.
And I want to thank Charles Salisha for coming to that dinner and pulling you in, because he's a good friend in Miami, and shout out to him.
It's funny. I was just texting with him yesterday and saying, hey, we have to catch up. It's been too long. And so it's really cool. The network this podcast has created, and then the network that our brokerage has created, has been just really cool. There's such great and amazing people. So again, thank you for hanging out with me for the next 45 minutes. So let's kind of unpack your team structure to give everybody context. How many people do you have on the team?
So we are a tiny and mighty team of 5 agents, 6 of us total. So 5 agents and 1 team manager. And we are in Capitol Hill, based in DC, and our agents are licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I don't know if you know, but this area is very close together. So we work all 3, and yeah, that's how we do it.
So out of curiosity and ignorance, do they in that area, have they combined the licensing, the tests, or do you have to get individual license in each state?
Wouldn't that be nice? No, they didn't. There is some crossover, but you have to do your continuing education and get licensed in each state. And there are nuances to the contracts and like the disclosures and all of that. So it always keeps us on our toes. It's very interesting to work in this area because all you're doing is crossing rivers, but you're getting into a whole different ball of wax, like Virginia is a caveat emptor state. So there's not a ton of like disclosures, and, you kind of have to be more diligent as a buyer. And DC and Maryland are very heavily buyer protective and renter protective. So there's a lot more laws about protecting those parties in DC and Maryland. So it keeps it interesting.
Oh my gosh, that sounds cumbersome. Gives me anxiety hearing like having multiple licenses, but to your point, you're literally just crossing a bridge.
So we keep our referral partners close at hand, because if you're not licensed in all of these places, you want to have a good friend that is, because your client may just want to move across the river and you can't help them unless you're licensed over there,
And so is everybody on the team licensed in all 3, or do you mix and match?
So there's 3 partners, Jeanne Harrison, Phil Guire, and myself. and then 2 agents, Annie Richardson and Alex Schindelbeck. And then, as I said, our team manager is Christina O'Reilly. And all of us are licensed in DC, and then 2 of us are licensed in Maryland, and 3 of us are licensed in Virginia.
Smart. That's a smart way to strategize.
And it just really it's become a function of like who's most apt to do business in these certain areas, and then we can filter the business where it needs to go. So it really works well for us.
That's so smart. I mean, it's just such a smart structure, and clearly it's working. If you're at 82 million in production, it's obviously a huge amount of volume and a lot of moving parts. And that's what's so curious about your whole team structure, because as we chatted right before we went live, there is no right or wrong way to build a team, but there are teams that are succeeding at a very high level. And it's those that I love picking them apart and understanding how'd you get this to work? And you yourself, you've been in the business for 20 years. When did your 2 other business partners and yourself all kind of come together?
Same. It's really funny. The 3 of us all came in around the same time. It was 20 years ago. So it was 2003-ish, I think, that all 3 of us got our licenses together. And we laugh because, when you get your license, you get your license number, and our numbers are like digits away from each other. Like we all didn't know each other at the time, but got licensed like right around the same, like maybe in the same month, So Jeanne and Phil are the same. And then Alex and Annie have been in the business for quite some time too. Not quite as long, but I think, 10 years and 6 years or 12 years and 6 years, something like that. So we don't have any newbies on our team.
Oh my goodness. So you basically are all like siblings at this point.
I mean, yeah, we haven't all been together for that long, but Jeanne, Phil, and Alex and I came together in 2017, I believe. And then Annie and Christine came in around 2021. So, but we were doing a lot of business. Jeanne, Phil, and I were at different brokerages on the Hill, doing a lot of business together, kind of friends already, and then all came to Compass. Alex was working with them at that time, and we all came to Compass. And I had a different partner at the time, but we did still did a lot of business together, and just were neighbors in the office and everything else. And then my partner and I split, and I interviewed around at a bunch of different teams. I knew I wanted to be on a team or with a partner. And finally, I just went over to their office and said, "You guys, this is really crazy, but I don't understand why we don't talk about this. Like, we should just go talk about kind of joining forces and see if it makes sense at all." And we sat down at a bar and hashed it out, and we were like, "Yeah, this makes perfect sense." And so we did it.
I love that. The back and napkin ideas, sometimes they just work. And 2, it's, in that setting, and I've had similar experiences, it's more relaxed. Like everybody's more receptive, and you just kind of like are throwing ideas rather than like this whole formal thing. And then it becomes like this business battle. So it's really cool the way you all approach that. And then talk to me a little bit about what that started to look like when it started to take shape. Did individual people start taking lead on certain aspects, or do you have more of like a flat management partnership style? What does that look like?
It's morphed. I mean, I think Jeanne and Phil had a more relaxed relationship. They had been working together for several years and had brought Alex on as sort of the buyer's agent. And so the 3 of them had a very informal, relationship. I'll just put it that way. And then when we all came together, I knew that we had to kind of set some things down on paper and make sure that we were all legit. And they were like, "Yes, let's do that." So, I mean, it's pretty formal. Like we have an LLC, we have a partnership agreement for the 3 of us, which we hired a lawyer to draw up for us. And, we gave them the terms, but, it was a pretty standard process. And then we added in what we needed to. And then, And then when Alex and Annie also have, and Christine too, all have, some kind of an agreement with us too, that's in writing, that sort of spells out all of the things that could be, it could lead to conflict. I mean, of course, most important is how money gets split up. That's always the thing that people fight about, right? And once you get past that, it's just a lot of little nuances, like what happens if we break up in the future? Who takes what client? How do we manage that? How do we maintain our autonomy if we do go separate ways in some fashion in the future? Because we just wanted to kind of, think about it and spell it out and get it down so it wouldn't become a problem.
And that's where usually most of the time, that's where I think money is the number one reason for divorce. And so, it would make sense that it's one of the biggest challenges when partnering and creating teams within this business. And I get this is a sensitive topic, so if there's anything you don't want to talk about, I'm totally cool with it. But when the three of you were approaching the financial piece, did you set it up where you basically eat what you kill, or did you have a pool where you started to share some of the proceeds? What did that look like?
We are sharing. The Jeanne Phil Meg team is a collection. And so any business that we do, the three of us, goes into the pot and we split it evenly, and all the expenses come out evenly. And then it gets more nuanced as to with our teammates. There's a breakdown that's, if you source the client, you get this much. If you work the client, you get this much, and the team gets this much. And that's kind of, it's pretty, it's a split that it's a simple split, but it makes sense. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We try not to get too in the weeds.
That's good. And that's usually when problems happen.
I think so. And like you said, like there's a million different ways you can do this. And, our broker sees a lot of them. Holly Worthington is a fantastic broker here in DC for Compass. And, whenever anybody's talking about teams and starting a team and partnerships and things like that, she just says, you can do it a million different ways, but you just got to make sure that everybody's on the same page about the money.
Yeah, it really genuinely, it comes down to just being able to have open conversations and figure it out in advance, because weird stuff's going to happen. It's inevitable. How does your team collectively approach? There's no way that all three people are obviously doing the exact same amount of production each year. So how do you manage that?
Again, it's sort of morphed, and we, everybody on the team has their like superpower. And so different people handle different things. Different people are busy at different times of the year and different times of the week. And we just kind of accept that. We do track, who's bringing in what and when. I think it's to the three of us, I think it's most important that we feel like, we have camaraderie, we have coverage when we go out of town and things like that, and that we can rely on each other for consulting and things like that. And if somebody brings in more business in one year because they sourced more, because they're great at networking and that's their superpower, that person knows that the other folks on the team are going to pick up the slack, handle the business, and we try to spread the love and give away some of our clients if we can't handle them. But we're really all moving towards the same goal, and so it's less about who brings in what at this point. And I guess it's been a little bit easy too, because for the most part we are more or less, even, at least in terms of like who's sourcing what and who's working what. I think everybody feels that way. So, so far it's worked,
That's really cool. And it sounds like obviously you all, the three of you, gel really well together, which it makes those other pieces run more smoothly. And in addition to, if you're spending time going to events and sourcing leads, and then you're handing those off and somebody else on the team is supporting those, there is a value that's always hard. It's a non-tangible value of that time spent networking and getting those opportunities. And then there's also a monetary value of, if it's a listing, spending the time prepping the client, going through the paperwork. And it's not just about who's closing per se. And that's where I feel in looking at different teams where people get all caught up, because the person closing it may actually just have more time to focus on that activity because somebody else is supporting by spending their time somewhere else.
That's exactly right. And I do feel Jeanne Harrison on our team is fantastic at the listings. Like, she is all about details. Like, she actually had a company before she came into real estate called Details, where she would help people with organizing their house and take care of, handyman type stuff, handywoman, I should say. And so, she is like super good at the details in every listing. And she spends a lot of time prepping our listings. Her staging is beautiful. She has an eye for details. She went to architecture school. So like, that's her wheelhouse. Phil is not a details guy, and he'll be the first to admit it. He does not like paperwork. He does not like, that kind of thing, the red tape. And so, but he generates a ton of our business because he's out there in the community constantly, like, coaching swim teams and getting on boards, and just that's his superpower. Like, he's a rainmaker. And I do a little bit of both. I'm kind of like our operations manager, more or less. So I do less of taking on the actual clients. Phil also, by the way, does a ton of our buyers. Like, he's great with buyers because he has the patience of a saint. And so those two are handling, for the partners, the buyers and the sellers. I'm kind of a swingman. I'll do a couple here and there. Over the year, if it's somebody that has a particular need, I might take them on. If it's somebody that really wants to work with me because they have a past client or something, I'll take them on. But I'm really like running the team, and like that includes things like training, and meeting with our agents and having chats and prepping for our team meetings once a week. And then I do the networking stuff too, because I love it. It's not hard for me to do that. Some other people on our team, especially during COVID, have not really wanted to do that. And I'm like, I'll do it. It's fine.
And I hope people listening picked up on this, but very effortlessly, you were able to almost give everybody's job description, like very clear and succinct with like, this is each person's superpower and this is their weakness. And this is how everybody else basically supports that piece. And I feel like that's such an incredibly important part when teams are coming together of, this is what I really love doing and I want to do a lot of that, and this is what I'm not good at. So I need the other team members to be supportive or filling in those gaps somehow.
And we've been really deliberate about that. I mean, usually if you're paying attention, your teammates and the people that you're working with will make it clear what they're good at and what they don't like doing, but not always. And, honestly, when we were at the Compass retreat in San Diego, one of the amazing speakers was talking about how she has a team in North Carolina. She thought she knew what everybody on her team liked doing and didn't like doing. And she did a survey and asked them and was just shocked at what everyone said. I literally came home and gave my team that survey. And I'm like, write down all the things you do every day and then put a star next to the things you like to do and put a frowny face next to the things you hate doing. And most of the time, everything was totally jived with what I thought. But like, there were some surprises in there that I was like, oh, really? You hate doing that? I had no idea. Let's try to get that off your plate.
Interesting. How about for you? Did you have any big aha moments when you did that survey?
I've done it for myself many times, and I know exactly what I don't like doing. And I have already tried to get rid of all of those things. And I try to take on the things that my teammates don't like doing because they don't, those things don't bother me.
I feel like that comes with experience. Like I'm pretty darn clear about what I don't like. But when I was younger, I definitely had that challenge of that hard conversation with yourself of, I'm just not good at this thing. And like, yeah, I can probably learn it. I won't love it, but it's not part of me. And it's like the ego is hard to overcome, and just have that, to be really honest with yourself of like, I'm just not that, like that part of the business, that's not my strength. I really need to hire to overcome that.
And the thing that comes with experience, I think, is sometimes you think you're not good at something because you haven't done it and you're afraid to do it, right? Like, for instance, I think a lot of younger agents or agents that are just coming into the business, they usually start as a buyer's agent and they're afraid of listings because they don't know how to do them. And so I think a lot of them say, I can't do listings. I'm not going to do that. I'm not good at that. It's not that you're not good at it. It's that you don't have any knowledge of it. You've never done it before. You may be great at it. I used to get nervous doing listings. Now I'd much prefer to do a listing than handle a buyer, to be honest, and I've had enough of both that I can actually say, okay, I can see where things don't go well for me.
I would agree. I definitely built my business, the whole base of my business, on buyers. And then slowly, as I kept those relationships, slowly those people turned into sellers or listing opportunities. And then I had to transition and learn this other side of it. And they're very different. It's very different needs, very different communications. The way you're supporting them, it's very different. In San Francisco, and I don't know how it is in the rest of the country, but the etiquette is when you first get licensed, you typically get a mentor for the first 3 deals. And the goal is to have 2 buy sides, 1 list side. And I made a deal with my brokerage that I will have 3 mentors, but I want to be able to cherry pick depending on that client's needs. And so when it came to the listing, I basically did like this deep dive on all the agents in the office. And I figured out who had the best system that I can bite from, of like who had the magic checklist. And that the learning curve on that was so much less because I had that resource. And so that would be my huge recommendation. If somebody's not on a team and they're hesitant about taking that listing, give away a percentage of it and look at it as college tuition and learn. Ask as many questions you can of that person and figure out your formula as quick as possible. And I don't know of many agents who would say no to being a part of a transaction for a piece of the proceeds.
Right. And you want to pick somebody who is a good mentor and a good teacher. And I think you were smart. You kind of sat back and watched people for a while and then said, I want to work with that person. That was really smart.
The cool thing was it set me up really well. I developed a phenomenal relationship with this agent. And now anytime I have questions or challenges, I know I can ping her right away. And it's like, it's such a good experience. So it's a different approach, I guess, to partners, if you will, where it's not formal or formal. It's not some formal contract, but it's almost an implied way that we collaborate with each other.
That's great.
The 2 agents on the team, are they buy side, list side? What's their superpower?
Alex's superpower is buyers. She is a fierce advocate for our buyers, and she does not want to do listings. And so we don't make her do listings, and if we hand somebody to her, we know they're going to get the best service, and she's just amazing. And then Annie does both, actually. And her superpower is she just holds every deal together. Like, she wants it to work. She wants it to work for her clients. She wants it to work for the team. And, she's the closer. She's amazing. And she's always upbeat. She never says no. Even if you say, hey, look, I've got this client or this challenge, this really challenging transaction. I want to be very honest about it. Sometimes you have to refer business out because you don't want to take it, but you want everybody to be forewarned about what they're about to step into. And he's always like, yep, I'll take it.
Such a good attitude. I love that.
Yeah. But she'll do listings and buyers.
With Alex, I'm curious, what if hypothetically Alex sources a lead for a listing? Does she then what happens? Does she hand it to somebody else on the team?
Yep. She hands it to the team and she gets a referral fee. I mean, what would be the equivalent of a referral fee? And she keeps that client. I mean, that's her client. If that person wants to buy, then that is her client. she doesn't, she makes more money because they're hers.
With, let's say, all the marketing pieces that go out, do they then go out on behalf of all 5 agents?
Yes. So we do postcards, actual postcards, mailing postcards to a, footprint monthly. We do e-newsletters to almost 2,000 people every month. And any parties that we do, like we have a yearly huge gingerbread decorating party where we invite all of our clients to this massive brewery in town, and we basically give them a undecorated gingerbread house for their kids to decorate with all the candy and the icing and all of that stuff. And the parents drink beer and the kids decorate the gingerbread houses, and everybody loves it. And we get hundreds of people to come to that. And then we do another event in the spring. We do some like happy hours throughout the year. And that, all of those things the team pays for. Like that's all of that marketing is, that benefits everyone on the team.
I literally wrote down the gingerbread decorating. I'm stealing that, and we're going to implement it.
You can steal it if you keep it in on your coast.
I won't tell anybody about this. How's that?
People are stealing it here too.
Exactly. That's such a good one. What's popular in the city is around Thanksgiving time. People will do pie pickups in the office. But to me, I never did that because I feel like it's too, they come in, they say hi, you talk for a minute, and then they leave. And I want more time with my clients, especially the really super cool ones. I want to be able to hang out with them. And I feel like the gingerbread decorating, that's a much more fun way to just hang out with a lot of people. Plus all the kids get to hang out together. The different groups, the parents are all chatting it up. I feel like that's such a much cooler and better event for everybody.
It's a really good connector. And it trickles down in so many ways too. It gives back in so many ways because, when you're having an event, you send out your invitations or whatever, but then you end up actually calling a lot of people. If they don't answer or don't RSVP, call them or text them and say, hey, I want to make sure you knew about this. So that's an outreach. Then when you're there, you get to talk to them, and that might be only for a short amount of time. And then, you're probably writing your holiday cards, and you can say, it was so great to see you at the gingerbread party. Let's talk about XYZ, let's go get coffee. Like there's just so many points where you can keep that relationship going. And they do, it's funny because, we're in a community that is actually a really small world. So they go to the gingerbread party and like meet other clients of ours, and they know them, their neighbors or their friends of friends. And I didn't know you guys worked with the Jeanne Phil Meg team. They're our agents too. This is so great. And so that's like another kind of pat on the back for us that we didn't even do anything. They just happened to, run into each other and talk about us. It's nice.
Oh, that's so cool. It's almost like a little, they're part of a club. And it's like this like cool private invite club.
Very exclusive.
I love that. I genuinely, we this year, 2024, we decided to post COVID. Prior to COVID, we would typically do one big event each year. And then this year we decided to do quarterly events, but then only invite about 20 to 30 people. I don't want to say clients, but sphere. And so it's more intimate, more one-on-one time, more conversations. And then a portion of those events, we decided to do more volunteer work and kind of give back to the community. But I love we've been talking about doing a bigger event, but we haven't cracked the nut of what should that be? What does it look like? And genuinely, I'm totally running with this gingerbread idea. I think it's such a cool thing. And the other thing that we always like to do is when we're deciding these things, how do we then support our local businesses? And so if you're doing it at a brewery, obviously they're getting an uptick in business for that evening. And so it's a win across the board.
You can always loop in a philanthropic piece of it too. We do that as well. We had this year we put QR codes for our favorite 3 philanthropies. And if you scanned a QR code and gave to one of those philanthropies at the event, you could take a growler of beer with you.
Oh, that's really cool.
And it was great.
Okay, what else? The pen is going crazy right now.
You guys are going to kill me because this is like proprietary information.
If you really don't want it on there, we can edit that out.
No, I think it's fine.
We're all doing I have found that most all of the top performing teams and agents are definitely doing events, and they have a lot of quality FaceTime with clients. And there's so many different ways to slice the pie. And so I really, again, I think that's a cool strategy to do it. And then also tying in the philanthropic piece it's just smart, because people, especially if you're doing it around a holiday, people want to help others.
They do. And they rely on people that they trust to tell them where to put their money. I used to be afraid of asking people to donate to stuff. And then I ended up, this is a case in point to like, then you start doing something and you're like, oh, this isn't so hard. Ended up being the gala sponsorship chair for school, and then ended up being on a board and sort of putting on that hat a lot over the years. And I finally realized, like, I used to be embarrassed to ask people to donate to these organizations. I realized that they really want us to tell them where to put their money because they trust us. They know us. They know that we wouldn't steer them wrong. And so they're thankful. And when I realized that, the light bulb went on, and I'm like, oh my God, this makes it so much easier to ask people for stuff, you know?
It's such a good mind shift, just seeing it from that other perspective. And it's not dissimilar if we as agents go to a professional, if we go to an attorney and then they offer their recommendation, we welcome it. It's not, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you just recommended that to me. Shame on you. It's the opposite. We're like, wow, thanks so much. That's amazing. I didn't think of that. And so you're right. I've never had a client or anybody say, I can't believe you just made that recommendation.
Right. Or don't ask me for money for a, homeless organization. No one would say that, They might give, they might not give. And that's part of, rejection is part of our everyday world. So who cares if they don't give?
Exactly. It's fine. And prior to getting into real estate, I came from sales, and I trained myself to not only get really comfortable with the no's, but almost look forward to them, because I know statistically, if you meet 100 people, only 2% are actually going to proceed with the purchase. So that means 98 people are going to say no. So when somebody said no, I got excited because I now know that I'm one step closer. And it was like similar mind shift of, great, like now I don't have to waste any more time on that one. That one's clear. Let me go find the next person.
Exactly. Yeah.
Meg, this has been amazing. We're at time.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that flew by.
It flew by. I genuinely love the way you and your team have structured things, and you can just tell that you guys really figured a lot of cool pieces out that a lot of people struggle with. So I hope listeners are able to glean a lot from this conversation.
Me too. I love listening to your podcast. I think the people you have on are really, really smart. I'm humbled to be on this podcast. So thank you for letting me.
No, thank you for your time.
Anytime.
Any team who is producing the numbers you all are at, it's hard work and it's very time consuming. So I genuinely appreciate your time that you've carved out to be here with me and everybody listening.
You are very welcome.